I would agree. Because the question was asked, how many of them are actually, how many of them are
I need the mic of that.
Yes, I'm here.
So you see
Let me see if I can.
Hello, everyone.
Are you on this meeting?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I'm part of the.
Are you the moderator?
Yes, I'm the rapporteur.
Oh, okay. So
I don't have access to the mic.
Hello, everyone. Good morning from Accra, Ghana. My name is Raymond Mamata, and we are about to start our session on meaningful access to the internet in local languages. This session is being organized by the Universal Acceptance Steering Group, which is a section within the ICANN, and it's our privilege to have all of you to join us. Those of you joining us physically on site, hello to you, and those joining online as well, we welcome all of you to our session. It is said that when you communicate to somebody in their local languages, they feel more connected to you than using a language that is foreign to them. In the same way, we can all agree that accessing the internet in our local languages is essential for digital inclusion as well to take place. In this regard, we are having our section this morning to discuss the various ways by which UA could assist us in having meaningful access to the internet in our various local languages. For this session, we will have a little slide presentation to have a background information on what the UA does. Then from there, we will be having the panel discussion, and we will be picking the questions after all the discussions have taken place. So you can jot down your questions and also raise your hand when you are physically on site. Consulate, who is our moderator on site, will pick the signal and allow anybody who is on site to ask their questions. So once again, you are welcome. The host, can I get access back so that I can share the screen?
Yeah, can you allow Raymond, my colleague, to the screen to be shared? Okay, Raymond, you can go ahead and share the screen. I'm Ponslate. I'm a member of the UA working group, and I'll be moderating this session. Most of my colleagues are online, and the presentation will go on after. If you have any questions after the presentation, then we can take the questions.
Thank you, Ponslate. So at this stage, we invite all the panelists to introduce themselves. Then after that, we'll do a little slide presentation on what UA is, and we take it up from there. So Maria, over to you. Please introduce yourself shortly. The host, can you please allow the session speakers to unmute themselves?
Maria is speaking first, right, Raymond?
Yes, anyone who is ready can speak.
Okay, so.
But they cannot unmute themselves.
They can't unmute. Who? Raymond, you are the host. So Raymond, you are the host. You should be able to unmute them. So make Raymond the host so he can unmute.
It works.
It
Great.
works. Okay, Maria, over to you now.
Yeah, thank you all. Yes, I'm Maria Kolesnikova. I'm a representative of Russian ccTLD registry, so we have ID and domain in Cyrillic script as well. And also I'm working as a chair of Commonwealth of Independent Countries and Eastern Europe local initiative working on universal acceptance in this region. And also I'm an ex-universal acceptance communication working group at UASG. So here is my presentation. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. Abdul Karim, if you are there, please, next. Otherwise, Hedia, please introduce yourself.
Hi all, I'm Hadia El-Minyawi. I'm Chief Expert on International Policies at the National Telecom Regulatory Authority of Egypt. At ICANN, currently I'm at large, a chair of at-large capacity building workshops team. I'm also vice chair of the Middle East and adjoining countries strategy working group. I have always had keen interest in universal acceptance and IDNs, and for that I have joined some initiatives. I also attend the UASG communication group calls. Thank you.
Thank you, Hedia. Abdul Karim. Okay, are you there?
Yeah, Abdul Karim, could I jump in? I am Abdul Manam Galila.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I am Abdul Manam Galila, the numbering planning manager at the National Telecom Regulatory Authority of Egypt. And I am the Universal Acceptance Ambassador since 2018 and serving as the Vice Chair of Universal Acceptance Steering Group and also a Vice Chair of Email Address Internationalization Working Group and also as one of the co-chairs of the Middle East Space responsible for Africa, for Middle East, for anything matters. And it is my honor today to be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Nabil.
Yes, Raymond, thank you very much for introducing me. So this is Nabil Venamar from Morocco. I'm a professor at the university here in Morocco. And also I'm the chair of the Universal Acceptance Measurement Working Group within ICANN and the chair of the task force for the Arabic script IDNs. So it's my pleasure here to be in this panel and to debate with you and to exchange some ideas about next steps in universal acceptance. Thank you.
Thank you. Abdikari, are you in now? I'm sure he'll join us later. Then our rapporteur online, Consulate, please introduce yourself briefly.
Okay, I'm Ponslate. Here presently, I'm rapporteuring this session and I'm in this session on site. I'm part of the UA working group of ICANN and also I run the Gambia IGF as the national resource person. Thank you.
Thank you, Ponslate. And I am your session moderator. My name is Raymond Salamamata and I'm in Accra, Ghana. I'm the vice chair for the UA communication working group. I'm also the African representative to the ILAC, and I'm also the founder and president for the e-Governance and Internet Governance Foundation for Africa, which is a civil society here in Accra, Ghana. So on behalf of the organizing team, I welcome you all to our section. The next is we take a brief intro on what UA is all about. Then we start with the panel discussion. So as I mentioned already, please note down your questions and you can also draw Consulate's attention whilst on site so that you could ask your question when we get to the end of the presentation. So the UA is being founded in February 2015 with the main objectives to raise awareness on the issue of UA among the relevant stakeholders, and also to help developers make their systems UA ready. And we do this by allowing them to test their systems and the rest. It also encourages businesses and governments to ask their developers to provide a UA-ready solutions, which is very relevant. And we also do UA measurement for people who want it to be done for them. Our vision is to get all domain names and email addresses work in all software applications. And our impact is to promote consumer choice, improve competition, and provide broader access to the internet. The UA steering group has other working groups under it, which are 6. The technology working group, the email, the measurement, communication, local initiative, and the UA ambassadors. All these people play a role in achieving the missions and visions of UA. So why does UA matter? It is essential because at the moment we have over 1,200 active GTLDs, including the CCTLDs, and this represents cultures, interests, and various groups of people. In the same way, presently, there are 4.5 billion active people who are very much active on the internet, and the ability to access the internet in their local languages will give them the full benefit of accessing the net. And we also agree that the internet users are not all familiar with English language usage. Hence, the ability of other languages to be used on the internet is very relevant, and that is part of our aims. In Africa, for instance, about 1.2 billion people do not use the internet, and this gives a cause for worry, and we need to work on that, and that is why we are organizing this session within the African IGF. So because of time, we'll move straight to the panel discussions. And as we've already introduced the panelists, we will move on straight to the discussion. I will now stop sharing my screen so that we can see the various panels when they are presenting. Okay, so our discussion this morning is mainly on how UA can help people to access the internet in their various languages. So all the panelists will take turns to answer and express their views on the questions that we pose to them. And as I mentioned already, please note down your questions and we will do justice to all of them at the end of the session. So the question to our panelists to help our attendees to get more knowledge on UA is, what is your understanding of UA and how do you think it helps people to access the internet in their local languages? So we start with Hedia. So you tell us what is your basic understanding of UA and how do you think it helps people access the internet in their local languages? So over to you, Hedia.
Thank you, Raymond. This is Hadia for the record. So universal acceptance is a fundamental technical requirement for unlocking the potential of not only IDNs, but many other new GTLDs as well. However, not to restate the technical definition that has been stated many times, I shall talk about universal acceptance from a cultural point of view. Internet users across the globe need to be able to use online the cultural identity of their choice. But what are the cultural elements that prevent worldwide adoption of universal acceptance? Examples of cultural aspects affecting universal acceptance adoption include customers requiring universal acceptance ready products. At the end of the day, developers are developing whatever they're selling. Since the early days of the internet, users got used to typing in ASCII and maybe even creating new communication styles such as Franco-Arab. Now, as internet inclusion worldwide is improving, due to many factors, which include more accessible and affordable internet and efforts exerted to close the digital divide gap, creating content and typing and reading in native languages is inevitable. Internet users are the ones who define the worth of domain names, and their experiences is what really matters. So if I want to talk about how do I think universal acceptance helps people to access the internet in their local languages, a universal acceptance ready ecosystem is necessary to bridge the digital language divide. The languages we speak shape our experiences of the internet. Because of the origins of the internet, English was the first language used online. By the mid-1990s, it was estimated that 80% of the content was in English. However, this is not the case now. A universal acceptance ready ecosystem is necessary for all internet users to access information and have similar online experiences. Universal acceptance plays a role in defining the lines on which exclusion and inclusion are drawn. This is like my quick take on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hadia. Maria, next to you. How do you explain UA to the participant in your own words, and how do you think it helps in accessing the internet in their local languages? You are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, now I have sound. What about universal acceptance and why it matters? So I'm a representative of technical community, I would say, because I'm representing, first of all, CCTLD registry. And in this field, when we talk about universal acceptance, it's like a narrow technical issue connected with the lack of support of domain names, internationalized domain names and email addresses, which are on local languages. But if we of course can look at this issue in a wider sense, like we do working on universal acceptance implementation, and we can do it in two different ways. So in technical way, I would say that universal acceptance is can be considered like and play its role in the global transition from ASCII to Unicode. It means that if your language is presented in the Unicode standard. So all mobile and desktop devices, computer devices can show and display your language on the screens. And of course, you can create some content which will be available on the internet on your local language. So this is the first part. And the second part, to develop the local content and grow it on your local language. So it also can be done with Unicode, and of course with internationalized domain names and email addresses, which help users to have this like meaningful usage of the internet. So they have something to be done there, to communicate in their local language, to read, to write in their local language, to create content. So this is like a technical way connected with Unicode. In a more social way, so we can
We lost you, Maria. Maria, we lost you. Can you repeat what you're saying? We can hear you.
I'm here. Microphone is on.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Probably some problems with internet connection here. Okay. So in the social way, when we talk about universal acceptance, it can be considered like a part of huge work on the development of multilingualism on the internet, because it really connected with what people doing on the internet, how we use our local languages for communication, for presenting our cultures. What differences do we have in our, I would say, psychological mentality based on the languages that we use, because language is absolutely different and people think in different way when they use their local language. So, and we have, of course, some problems with communication when we are communicating in different languages. Moreover, we have such problems when we use English like a universal language, because we can't express ourselves well when we use English language, right? It's very more easier and convenient to express ourselves in our local languages. So it
Yes,
means
I agree with you on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So yeah, so we'll move on to Nabil to give his opinion as well.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you. So universal acceptance for me is one of the main pillars of the internet access and the internet used by all citizens. So I remember the first time 10 years ago when I met the father of the internet during the IGF. Windsurf, I asked him about something and he gave me his business card, and he wrote in the back of the business card, Internet for all. And from that time, I was asking myself, what does it mean, Internet for all? So I can see that many organizations are advocating for the Internet of all as a slogan, but they deploy it differently. Some are advocating the use of more addressing space to permit to all users to access to the internet, like, for example, advocating the IPv6 deployment. Others are advocating the means on how we permit internet access physically by connecting the unconnected, and others are talking about the language barrier. And I agree that this is one of the main tasks that we need to tackle nowadays, which is the language barrier, so that we can see that all software, all domain names, all email address work in all software applications. If we go back to the beginning of the definition of the universal acceptance as a concept by Mohans, as you can see from Wikipedia, for example, you can see that Mohans laws of universal acceptance are as follows. So they can be crafted in 3 laws that appeared valid in the domain namespace. The first one is an old TLD will be accepted more often than a new TLD. The second one is an ASCII only TLD will be accepted more than an IDN TLD. And the last one, a 2 or 3 letter TLD will be accepted more often than a longer CCTLD or GATLD. So this definition has been created by the father, let's say, of universal acceptance term, which is Ram Mohan in 2001, so more than 20 years ago. So as of this year, 2022, these laws appear to still hold true. So the success of universal acceptance will result in these laws becoming obsolete. How can we deprecate these laws so that we can move on? Thank you.
Thank you, Nabil, and thanks for also giving us that basic history about UA and where the definition comes from. Galile, are you in?
Yes, I am here.
Okay, good. So please, it's your turn.
Yeah, this is Abdelmanan Galila for the record. It is IGF. So we are talking about facts. So one of the facts is that 34% of the worldwide population is not connected online. Also, all the government are going for digital transformation project and the connectivity project to connect these people to be exists online. But it seems that one of the facts that the language is a barrier. So it is my right from the end user view, it is my right to be connected online using my own local language to access as a domain name to access the local language content website and use my local language email address to send and receive email like the legacy one, the English one. Is the first thing. Second thing that I wanted to be exists online and use the online escape in a consistent way. I mean, I use my own local language for a domain name to access local language content website and use my own local language email address to send and receive email. It will be consistent. I want also to all of this user to be connected online. So it will back to me for the business view. This will be a revenue from this new internet new user to be connected online, and it is around $9.8 billion. It's an annual opportunity that will come from 2 parts. We will have new trend of users that will be connected online, that will use IDNs, that will use AIs, and the other part is that from the user who will want to keep their brand, to will keep their identity to be exists online through using the new generic top-level domain names. From the government view, it is, as I said earlier, that all government are going for digital transformation projects. They want to have these governmental services to be exists online. How could these services reach out to the most of the citizens inside the country that are using their own local language to be exists online? How could these people to be connected online, especially that we are now in COVID-19? That will be a problem. You know that small students have to have their classes published online, so they have to register, they have to access this Arabic content website. How come? They don't speak English, they don't write English. How could they access the Arabic content website, for example? How could they access the French content website? How it's come? It's a problem. That is why I said and highlighted by my colleague Raymond that universal acceptance doesn't care only about domain name IDNs and AIs, but also for the new generic top-level domain names. We have, as said by Raymond, that we have more 1,200 new generic top-level domain names. most of them or part of them is related to countries like Istanbul, like Dubai, something like this. So for the last view for understanding about universal acceptance, it is for academia. How could we have new software, the future software analyst, the future software developer, the future system administrator to be aware about the facts that universal acceptance will open the gateway for the next billion internet user through having the application to be ready. That's a must. How could system administrator like the email administrator enable using AIs for their email servers? How could it happen? So now it's a fact that we are in bad need for using universal acceptance, and more needs is added, especially after we are going now and still for COVID-19. Thank you, Raymond, and sorry for being told for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your input. And we will all agree that from the submissions so far, we all have a role to play in having the UA acceptability missions achieved worldwide and for all of us to benefit from it. At this stage, we will be looking at the various roles that each and every one of us can play, be it individuals or groups, organizations. What role can we play to ensure UA acceptability in our various little ways? So I'll start with Abdul Karim, who is a universal acceptance ambassador, to brief us on how people can be UA ambassadors, and also to give us a brief introduction on how wide range of stakeholders are needed to achieve the UA goals. So Eke, over to you. Eke, are you there? Okay, so we'll get back to Abdul Karim later for his submission on that angle. So I go back to Maria. You give us a bit idea on what the local initiatives are and what do they do in ensuring that we get registries and all other people on board to give us their various little ways that they can help us to achieve our UA readiness. So how can that be done using your example?
Okay, so yes, I'm a chair of a local initiative which works in CIS and Eastern Europe countries region. And in this role, so we work with our members over 2 years so far. And I would say that to become a member of local initiative can be any interested person or organization. So, and for example, in our local initiative, we have representatives of CCTLD registries, of IDN, new GTLD registries, registrars, software developers, IT experts who work on internet standards, cybersecurity experts, lawyers, and of course, marketing persons and academia sector. So this is a wide range of stakeholders that are represented in our local initiative. So that's why I think that everyone can find its role to play in universal acceptance achievement process. So what are doing local initiatives? So of course, we try to measure the current level of universal acceptance readiness in the country. So we try to evaluate the local websites, the software, and how it can work with new GTLDs, IDNs, and internationalized email addresses. So we find out any barriers that prevent such stakeholders from adoption of universal acceptance. So we try to build dialogue with them, with local vendors. We invite other interested parties to the dialogue to discuss why they do not implement universal acceptance so widely as it is requested. So of course, we try to motivate and influence them and provide some consultancy on technical level, what they can do to make it in an easier way and why it's so necessary. And of course, that's all. Okay.
Yes,
I just want to add one point, if possible. So I would say that it's very important to invite governments, local governments, to this dialogue because they can really influence local markets and they can really benefit from universal acceptance adoption to build this how to better communication for the citizens on local languages and to help local citizens to get necessary skills, how to work on the internet, how to create content on the local language, and how to use it for everyday life, I would say. So this is really important. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. So we'll go to Nabil. How do you think the academia can play a big role in addressing the UA gaps? So you are a professor in the university. How do you think the academia can help us to bridge this gap in the UA readiness? Nabil, over to you.
Yes, Raymond, thank you. So this is a very interesting question. How can we spread the word about universal acceptance? How can we make people aware of this issue and of these concepts? If you take one random citizen from the internet and ask him or her about universal acceptance, definitely, likely he will not answer this question. He has no idea about the meaning of universal acceptance. If you ask people if they are able to write a domain name with their own scripts, they are not aware of this. They don't know if it's possible or not. They think that it's only possible with the Latin scripts. So the problem here, or the issue, is that we are not aware of this concept. We are not teaching this in the university. So our graded students and our engineers, our doctors, master and PhD students are not aware of these principles, so they cannot spread this word and they cannot teach this in their courses. So the first thing that we are doing now in the measurement working group, we have created a task that we are now working on, is to prepare content for train the trainer workshops, so that we can ask and select faculty members from different universities in all over the world to come join the initiative, to participate in the workshop, so that they can learn about the universal acceptance and how they can enable this and create this and insert this in their curriculum, whether it's about a networking course or programming, like in Python or Java, Linux operating system, and other courses related to computer science. They need to update and upgrade their courses to include these principles in their curriculum, so that people are aware of this, and not only just a concept, but it should be also practiced as a lab, so that they can practice. Coders can know that how they can do this in Python or in Java. Network admins, they need to know how to enable this in their servers, different servers. So the statistics that we have now is that just few, really few, for example, for email servers, we have less than 7% 6% that are set up to accept an international email. So the majority are not accepting, the majority of mail servers are not accepting international email addresses. So this fact should be corrected, should be leveraged by preparing future engineers to be ready to deploy UA in all levels, in all the layers. So that's my take for the moment.
Thank you very much, Nabil. We now move to Galila. And what ways do you think the UA can help us to get new GTLDs represent different cultures, interests, brands, and geographies within UA? And also briefly speak about how UA ambassadorship works and how people can become an ambassador.
Yeah, thank you, Raymond, for this. This is Abdulmanam Galila again.
Abdulmunim, we cannot hear you.
Galili, we can't hear you if you are speaking. Okay, so whilst waiting for Galila to rejoin us, we'll give the platform to Hedia. So Hedia, you briefly tell us about how the DNS, how people can play their roles in the DNS ecosystem and how that can help us.
I am sorry, can you hear me?
Do I go ahead, or would you go to Abdulmanam?
Yes, Abdulmanam, you can now go ahead. You can have 2 minutes. Then from that, we'll go to Hedia.
Yeah. Can you hear me now well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Sorry for that. It is actually a connection issue. So what I said before that, I have a question in my mind regarding that. Why you are waiting for the next internet is the next user to be connected to the internet and not able to access the local language content website or even send and receive email using their own local language. We need to work and make the environment consistent and ready to handle all of these upcoming internet users. So actually universal acceptance is not just an individual work, it is a community work. So all stakeholders should be engaged in order to make all the environment consistent. What I mean, let's start, for example, for academia. I want the new software engineers, the new software analysts, the new administrator, even the new manager of the future manager for software to be able to recognize that there is a need for universal acceptance. There is a need to deploy the universal acceptance concept inside the developed softwares. It is a need that we add the universal acceptance item inside the universal acceptance inside the user acceptance sheet that will be added for the developer in order to develop an application that will have a good of that have a lot of customers that will be satisfied from using software. This is for academia. We need to go for the software companies in order to add the concept of universal acceptance as a solid concept inside all the software application that will be developed for the future. We need to ask them also for the old applications that is currently working in order to update them and to update these softwares in order to make it UA ready. We need to go to the software, the APIs, the APIs developers, application programming interface that develop APIs that is universal acceptance ready. You know that universal acceptance ready have 5 verbs of universal acceptance readiness: accept, validate, store, process, and display. So all software that will be developed for the future should be accommodate all the 5 verbs of universal acceptance readiness. The other old software or the current working software should be updated in order to handle this. So let's move away from academia now and go for example, for my role as a master registry manager. First, I have to start with myself. I need to have the registry application to be UA ready. I wanted to have the registrar interface to be UA ready. So anyone could go and sign up for a new domain name and add his local language email address. So my registry should be able to send emails to this customer using his local language email address. So all of this should be considered. We need to have a campaign of awareness about the importance of IDNs, importance of EIs, the importance in how to deploy email address internalization environment, in how to make your current email system to be EI ready. It's a must for this. So I will try to conclude all of this, but actually there are a lot of things that we could do for universal acceptance. But for the sake of time, I will move the floor to Raymond again. Thank you.
Thank you, Galila. Hadia, can you tell us in 2 minutes how the end users, the government, and everyone can play their roles in ensuring UA readiness? Then we can have some 5 minutes for questions. Over to you, Hadia.
Thank you. This is Hadia Al-Minyawi for the record. I'm thinking of starting with who should do what and why. And so let's start with the why. And as African countries are increasingly adopting digital transformation and working on bridging the digital divide gap, IDNs offer socioeconomic benefits to all users. It allows provision of services entirely in local languages. It promotes economic as well as social inclusion. So that's the why. The interest is there for both governments and users as well, who will benefit from this. So let's go to the role of governments. Governments need to consider IDNs as a public good. Universal acceptance readiness needs to be part of the nation digital inclusion strategy. Creating a platform for sharing experiences, receiving non-universal acceptance compliance complaints from users, promoting the adoption of schools and academia to internet-related curriculum. This would include internet governance, how the internet works, as well as IDNs and universal acceptance. Actually addressing only universal acceptance in a standalone, as a standalone issue doesn't work much. This need, because also you don't want, you're not mainly looking, when you're going to academia and schools, you're not mainly looking to like tell them, well, this is what you need to do, and give them a script. You're not looking really for technicians, but you're looking for people to think and innovate and bring new ideas to the table. And I think that also needs to be part of the focus. And then going to the private sector, what makes the private sector go ahead and adopt or become universal acceptance ready? Again, I would say the governments need to create incentives for private sectors to become universal acceptance ready. It needs to cooperate also with private sectors to provide universal acceptance ready applications and services. And then let's go to end users. What could we as end users do? Requesting a universal acceptance ready products, that's one thing. Also being able to report non-compliant sites. And I know, of course, that UASG group, you know, they have the site and you can complain through it, but that's not enough. They need to be able to complain through local sites or through local authorities or to local authorities or entities okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hedia. Abdul Karim, are you there to give us 1 minute on how anyone who is interested in being a UA ambassador can join in that role? Otherwise, we go for questions from the attendants.
Excuse me, could I jump in for this to answer this question?
Just in 1 minute.
Yes.
If EK is not available.
Yeah, it is open for anyone looking to help for the Universal Acceptance Initiative to join the Universal Acceptance Ambassador. Just to go to our website and fill an application, and we will back to you shortly about this. But before applying for this, you do have a plan inside your mind. What stakeholders I am looking to spread the message for? So I need to have, for example, I want to go to the government and spread the knowledge. I want to go to academia. I want to go to software companies. I want to go to private sector. That is the plan inside your mind. And of course, there is another many work groups, measurement, EIs, and other work group for UASG. You could join it and you will have good information about this. And also, if you have any issue related to universal acceptance, you could go for the website uasg.tech and submit an issue, and we will help you in this. Thank you. Thank you, Roman.
Thank you very much, Galila. So, Consulate, we back to you for 2 minutes to pick questions from the physical attendees. And if there are any questions in the chat, I've not seen any questions in the chat. Consulate.
We'll just take any questions. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Great, thank you, Consulate. My name is Jacqueline Rowe, and I'm with Global Partners Digital, a company based in London. I had a question for, I believe Hadia was just saying about there's a need for governments to incentivize the private sector to adopt universal acceptance ready models, and I just wondered if you know of any governments that have already done this. I'm curious also to know kind of which policy levers you see that being achieved through, whether that would be through kind of cyber and digital policy or laws, codes of practice, or whether you see that more as a kind of innovation funding, or yeah, just curious to hear a bit more about what successful incentivization would look like in this space.
Okay, thanks for the question. Hedia, you could answer that in 1 minute. Consulate, if you could also pick her email address so that we could get in touch with her after the session, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, Hedia, 1 minute to answer that question.
Thank you. This is Hadia for the record, but could you like briefly state the question again, because the voice was very faint. I couldn't really hear, but I think she was asking about governments who actually started adopting universal acceptance procedures. Is that was, or could you like repeat the question?
Can you hear me any better now? maybe
there is an echo. I can't really hear you. So if someone else could hear you better.
Hello, is this any better?
Yes, I think this is better.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Yeah, my question was specifically about governments that have begun to incentivize the private sector to take universal acceptance measures forward. And I just was curious as to how governments have been doing that, whether that's been through digital or cyber laws and policies, or more through kind of financial incentives like innovation funds. And I just was curious if you have examples of governments that have been doing this well already, or if this is something that's yet to come. Thank you.
Okay, so one example is, I would say, contracts with suppliers have clauses that require universal acceptance readiness. That in itself makes the private sector go ahead and become universal acceptance ready in order to have its products accepted as a supplier. So governments are starting to do this. So this is one thing I know is happening.
Thank you very much, Hedia, for answering the question for us. Please, anyone who has any further questions could get in touch with consulate on site and give the questions to him, and we will address it ourselves. Unfortunately, our time is up, so we could not pick any more questions. Consulate, do you have more time? Can we get 5 more minutes if anybody has any question?
Take one question.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay, my question is kind of new.
Yeah, could I answer there is a question inside the chat. Could I answer this question?
Galileo, we will give that chance to the one speaking instead, so that we can engage the physical attendants. So the one speaking, please go ahead.
So my name is Ibrahim. I'm a fellow at 19 from Nigeria. So I'm kind of totally new to the universal acceptance space, and although I know that accessibility is important for everybody to get online, so my question is this: do you think I don't know, what's your take on building community-owned telecom infrastructures for local communities in such a way that networks and applications are built tailored for communities in their own local context? Do you think this idea is in line with universal? How does this idea relate to universal acceptance? Universal accessibility, universal acceptance, yes. How does this connect to universal acceptance? Thank you.
Okay, Abdul Karim, your hand is up. If you could answer that question for us in 1 minute, so that you don't cut us off. Okay, go ahead. Okay, are you there? Okay, we couldn't get, okay. Maria, would you want to answer his question?
My apologies, but probably Ponsolate can repeat because the sound was low again. Unfortunately, I didn't get the question.
Okay,
Ponsolate, can you please rephrase it shortly so I can...
Since we have limited time, I'll suggest...
He just wants to know how communities can be able to understand better universal acceptance. That is the main cross of the matter.
How, who can better understand?
Communities at local level can access better universal
communities.
at
Okay.
local level.
So, okay, yeah, I would say that your USG is a global point of knowledge on universal acceptance, usg.tech website. So you can get more information on the website, and also you are welcome to join working groups that work on this issue, different working groups. You will find information there. And of course, actually, we have some regional points of knowledge on universal acceptance. This is again local initiatives and UR ambassadors. So if you have in your region, I know that you have African UR ambassadors. So you can, I think, connect with these persons and get more knowledge and probably organize some workshop if you are interested in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria, for the answer. And if you have further questions, please send your questions to our email that I've dropped in the chat section, or you consult Consulate for further help, and we will answer all your questions for you. On behalf of the UASG team and the attendees, ICANN and everyone, we thank you for attending our session. We hope you've enjoyed it and you've picked something back home that you'll be using to help us achieve the aims and missions of UA. On behalf of the team, we say thank you, and we are glad you join us in our session. Hope to see you again next year, same time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. Special thanks to Raymond.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you, Maria. Hadia, Abdulmumin. Thank you all. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
UASG.tech. And we have a social media page.